Optimal health for high performers. This is the Health Upgrade Podcast with Dr. Nawaz Habib.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Health Upgrade Podcast. This is Dr. Habib. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the breath. Now, the breath is truly the single most accessible tool that we have for nervous system regulation. We breathe 16 to 24,000 breaths per day, and most of us are not doing it truly correctly to enable our bodies to get out of survival mode and into recovery and healing mode. So today we're going to cover the 5 most evidence-supported breathing practices for improving vagal tone. And vagal tone is a measure of how well the vagus nerve is working. And we can't measure vagal tone directly in general public or general population, but we measure it with a different number called HRV, which is heart rate variability. Now, many of the people who have listened to the episodes in the past know we talk about HRV quite a bit, heart rate variability, and it's a topic that we're going to continue to explore over time. So look for previous episodes if HRV is the topic that you're interested in. In general, when it comes to vagal tone and HRV, in general, the higher your HRV, the more healthy your vagus nerve is and the more capable you're entering into parasympathetic vagus nerve activated zone. And why this matters is when the vagus nerve is on, we can reduce and regulate inflammation in the body. We can turn on the gut. We can lower the heart rate. We can lower the breath rate. There's so many very unique and important factors that go down to turning on the vagus nerve. And the breath truly is the way that we have most accessible to us at any given time to be able to create that shift. Okay. So in very plain language, think of vagal tone or vagus nerve capabilities as coming down to the strength of or the capability of a wire to have electricity or an electrical signal run through it. So I like to think of 2 examples. We all have these USB-C cables rolling around our homes. You can imagine what an old wire that's maybe bent or folded, it's been popped in a drawer too many times and got caught. Maybe there were some like nibble marks or some bend marks, and you can see the insulation on that wire has become frayed or broken down, or there's bends in that wire. This is a physical manifestation of low vagal tone in the vagus nerve. The nerve is a connecting feature. It's a communication transmission tool. It's not the end all and be all. So what we want is we want a brand new wire, nice and thick on the insulation, not bent, not folded. They generally come rolled up, but you can imagine when you unroll it, those first few times you're using it, electricity is passing through that wire very easily. We have the ability to rebuild that capability within our body. And that's what's really exciting about these breath practices that we're going to dig into, because if done consistently and regularly, these can be utilized to upgrade vagal tone, to bring it back to that brand new electrical wire concept. The breath truly is the foundation to this, and the breath is that master key that helps you regulate whether you're turning on the vagus nerve or you're going towards the sympathetic nervous system, which is a necessary piece. It's like the accelerator in your car, whereas the vagus nerve is the brakes in the car. We need both of these systems working, but most of us have our foot on the accelerator all the time, and the brakes have become dysfunctional. They're not working nearly as well as we want them to. So let's get into these top 5 vagus nerve activating breath practices. Number 1, really simple. Let's start off with complete simplicity. We're going to start with slow nasal diaphragmatic breathing practice. Okay, so we're going to start off with, first off, you have to breathe slow and deliberately through your nose into the belly, not into the chest. A very simple way to do this. Put a hand on your chest, put a hand on your belly. As you inhale through the nose, that breath should go into the belly, and the diaphragm should be the prime driver of this practice. The diaphragm is a muscle that lies between the thorax, which is your chest area, and your abdomen, which is your belly area. And when we have a well-functioning diaphragm and we're using our diaphragm to breathe, What it does is it causes intra-abdominal pressure to increase, causing our belly to start to protrude a little bit. Not a massive amount per se, but really what we want to do is note that there's more movement on the belly than there is on the chest, and particularly in the initial stages of that inhale. So why this matters, why this is good from a scientific perspective, diaphragmatic breathing directly activates the barrow reflex, which is how we control pressure in our blood vessels. And increasing this particular type of breath, this diaphragmatic breath, has been shown to increase vagally mediated HRV, heart rate variability. There was a study in 2021 in Scientific Reports that found a single session of deep, slow breathing significantly improved vagal tone and reduced anxiety in both young and older adults. So I thought this was a great place to start. It's very, very simple. All you want to do is inhale slowly through the nose, counting for 4 to 5 counts. The belly should rise first. Then we want to exhale through the nose or through pursed lips for a slightly longer count than we did on the inhale. So around 5 to 6. And you can practice this for about 5 minutes to start. This is a very simple practice. It doesn't require a whole lot of thinking. It's very simply put a hand on the chest, put a hand on the belly, breathe through the nose for a count of 4 and out for a count of 5, or in for 5, out for 5, or out for 6. Come up with something where this is a comfortable breath pattern for you. Nasal, diaphragmatic, and slightly longer exhales as a starting point. The best time to use this is in the morning or before bed, or kind of as the entry point to any other practice that we go into on the rest of this episode. Okay? So nasal, diaphragmatic, slow breaths, that's your starting point. Number 2 is resonance or coherent breathing. Now, this is a big one in the tools such as HeartMath. And this is a really awesome tool because it's very simple and it's actually meant to tune the nervous system to its sweet spot. So the way this works, resonance breathing actually has the strongest evidence. The science clearly says that multiple systematic reviews have confirmed this, that this is the single most powerful breathing pattern for HRV improvement. There was a 3-month RCT, which is the top level research that you can get, that showed significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressure alongside increased HRV. And the research showed very clearly, both through RMSSD and SDNN measures of HRV, that those were the highest at resonance frequency versus any other breathing rate. So if you're really focused on wanting to boost your HRV, this is what HRV biofeedback is built on. It's this entire concept of HRV biofeedback. Okay. Now, what this is, how resonance breathing works, very simply, is breathing at approximately 6 breaths per minute. That's a frequency of 0.1 hertz. So roughly, we're looking at about 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. Very simply, this is resonance frequency breathing, or HRV biofeedback breathing. This is a very, very simple practice, and here's how we do it. So what we do is we inhale through the nose for 5 count, 5 seconds approximately, and exhale through the nose again for exactly the same thing, 5 count. And you repeat that, but it needs to be repeated for a longer time. We're talking 10 to 20 minutes to create this training practice to build up HRV. Okay. One of the best ways to do this is to use either a breath pacing app on your phone or simply count. That said, I like having the phone around because it does help to provide a little bit of objective timing because we're not great at tracking ourselves. But much more than precision, the key thing that matters here more than anything else is the consistency of this practice. You need to do this consistently and regularly in order to create the positive change through resonance biofeedback breath or resonance frequency breathing. So like I said, it's best used for daily practice between 10 and 20 minutes. This is something that can be done morning or evening. And by far, this is the most well-researched and clearest high-yield practice for long-term vagus nerve improvement. No question about it. This is a great practice. It's a very simple one, 5 in, 5 out. when you practice this slightly more individualized, you'll find that you may land closer to 5.5 to 6.5 seconds, and essentially getting close to that 6 breaths per minute. So 5.5 to 6.5 breaths per minute will find you in that zone, but try to find what's comfortable for you individually. And this is the best way by far to boost your HRV through simple breathing practices. Again, key is consistency. Number 3 is the extended exhale breath. So really pushing out on the exhale timing. Many people who have listened to the podcast or heard me speak at conferences know that I talk about this particular breath pattern quite a bit. This is the 4-7-8 breath. Now, 4-7-8 very simply is done like this. You inhale through the nose for 4 seconds or 4 count, hold for 7, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. This was kind of initially popularized by Dr. Andrew Weil, but it's something that's been used by Navy SEALs to help them fall asleep really well, really helping to lower acute stress in certain circumstances, and particularly good in that pre-sleep wind down routine or anxiety management tools. You can really get a pretty sufficient and noticeable effect in just 4 to 8 cycles of this 4-7-8 breath. Very, very simple. So again, how do we do this? Putting one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly, breathing in through the nose for a count of 4, holding for 7 seconds, and then breathing out for the count of 8. Here's the science behind this. In 2022, a PMC study found significant HRV and blood pressure improvements after 4-7-8 breathing practice in healthy adults. And another review, it was done in 2025, identified 5 benefit themes. And the themes that were found here were reduced stress and anxiety, improved cardiovascular markers, enhanced parasympathetic or vagal activity, preventative benefits, and clinical adaptability. I just thought this was really simple. Now, for beginners, the 4-7-8 breath may be a little challenging to take on. So what I recommend if you're a beginner and you're really looking to get this breath down is just start with a simple 1-to-2 ratio. Essentially something like an inhale for 4 and an exhale for 8. And the key here is that the exhale to inhale ratio is the active ingredient, or making sure that your exhale is twice as long as the inhale. And that is how this 4-7-8 breath works, because when we inhale, our bodies, from a macrophysiological perspective, we're actually driving through an inhale, we're pushing the accelerator, we're turning on the sympathetic nervous system. And then as we exhale, we're turning on the parasympathetic nervous system, particularly through the vagus nerve. What you want to do ideally is spend less time on the accelerator and more time on the brakes, more time in vagus nerve activated zone. And so that's why I'm a big fan of this 1-to-2 ratio as a starting point, and then moving up to that full 4-7-8 breath as a progression point for you. So 4-7-8 can be challenging for people right off the bat. Start with 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out, or 3 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Try to figure out what works best for you. But this practice is really, really good during high stress moments and anxious moments, or to help you get to sleep. And that's really, really powerful for a lot of people. The fourth practice is one that many people have heard of, and that is box breathing. And this is a very simple box style breath where each side of the box is kind of a 4-second equal sided tool. And really the goal here is regulating the nervous system, calming things down, slowing the breath down is really the key here. So how this works, you inhale again through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and again hold for 4 more seconds. This is a symmetrical pattern. It's used in many settings, clinical, performance, military settings. And how this works is that because this isn't a longer exhale technique, it doesn't strongly favor the parasympathetic, but rather it produces balance. It helps to create a balanced, regulated state where there's balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic, and that's necessary. So as you do the breath holds, what you're doing is you're increasing your internal carbon dioxide levels, your CO2, And what that does is you increase your CO2 load is it stimulates the vagus nerve on the exhale. And that's really good to support vagus nerve functionality, but not doing so with an extended exhale. So this is really for more focused, calm moments rather than a deep, deep relaxation. Somewhere in the, I need to perform right now, I need to get up on stage, I need to do something, I have a presentation, or you're about to get into a workout, something that's a little bit more high stakes as a situation. This is a great practice, this 4-4-4-4 box breath practice. So very simple, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And you repeat that for about 5 minutes, and you can progress to a 5 or 6 count as you increase to build capacity, but keep it the same through the inhale, the hold, the out, exhale, and the second hold. Make sure that it's the same. If it's 4 in, then it's 4 hold, 4 out, and 4 hold. If you choose 5, then 5 for each of those areas. Here's the science behind this. 2023 Stanford study through Dr. Huberman's lab compared box breathing to other techniques and found a significant mood improvement and reduced physiological arousal. And another study, a 2025 study, found that it improved cardiovascular recovery after intense exercise. So it really does have to do with regulation when you don't want to be in a heavy sympathetic state, when you want to regulate while you're getting up to bat at the plate in a baseball game or shooting a free throw. You'll notice oftentimes basketball players come up to the line, 2 bounces, and then an exhale, calm it down, and then they take that shot. You don't generally see an inhale and a breath. It's always a exhale and then a shot, because we want to go into a more parasympathetic state even when we're in that performance state. Okay. The 5th practice here is the humming breath, and that is known as pranayama. Okay. And this is where we pair breathing to vocalization. And your voice truly is its own internal vagus nerve stimulator. So what you do is, following an inhale, you will then exhale through your nose, so nasal, but with a continuous hum added to it. Okay, this is actually based on a yogic version of breath called Brahmari, which also adds on closing the eyes, ears, and humming like a bee. And this is Brahmari pranayama practice in traditional Indian culture. And what this is nasal humming, which is really, really unique. Humming combines 3 vagus nerve mechanisms at once. What this is extended exhale time, which is, we know, is more parasympathetic vagus nerve activation. We have vibration of the larynx and the pharynx, and this is through the vocalization, the humming. And then thirdly, what we're going to get is stimulation of nasal nitric oxide production, which when you do nasal breathing, nasal exhalation, nasal humming in particular, it's actually been shown to increase nitric oxide levels by 15 times versus quiet exhalation. So this is really huge. What we really want to do is focus on building up other physiological mechanisms through the use of the breath. So really simply, we're exhaling slowly with a continuous hum through the nose. Mouth closed, lips need to be relaxed as well during this. From a scientific standpoint, this is really great. There was a PMC study in 2023, HRV specific study on Brahmari, and found it was producing the lowest stress index of any measured activity, even lower than sleep, with the highest SDNN and RMSSD values, meaning that HRV was more regulated through this particular practice. Another pilot study in 2025 confirmed that humming produces greater HRV improvements than slow-paced breathing alone. So this was really, really great in terms of how do we take the breath and then add to it? How do we initiate more of an effect from this practice that we're already doing? So this is how you do it. You inhale through your nose, then exhale with a slow, sustained hum at a comfortable pitch. And what you should do is feel the vibration in your chest and in your head, and doing that for about 5 to 10 rounds of breathing. This can be done silently with your mouth closed in any setting. Okay, so this is particularly great during acute and anxious instances or tension headaches. You can do this pre-sleep. I like to do this with my kids before meals. I think this is a great time because we want to initiate that rest digest state, which we know is the parasympathetic state. And this is a great way to also down-regulate pretty rapidly following some sort of emotional trigger. If you've in a fight or you got a tough email or you had an argument with your loved one or kids, just kind of going inhale through the nose and then humming on the way out. And holding that for as long as you feel comfortable. Okay. Really simple tools, but really, really good. So just a quick recap here. We've got 5 different breath practices. Number 1 is slow nasal breathing. This is the foundation. This is where you start. Number 2 was resonance breathing. This is 6 breaths per minute. And this so far in terms of just simple breath practices is the gold standard for improvements in HRV. Okay, 6 breaths per minute equal in and out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out on average. Number 3 is the extended exhale. This is the 4-7-8 breath for acute stress and sleep improvements. Number 4 was box breathing for balanced focus and performance. And this is particularly good right before you're doing something important, getting on stage, giving a big meeting, etc. And number 5 is the humming breath. And this combines 3 vagal mechanisms in one, boosts your nitric oxide levels, and gets the vagus nerve functioning really, really well. So I have a challenge for you today that you've listened to this episode. I would love for you to pick one of these practices from today's episode and commit to doing one of those practices for 5 minutes a day over the next 7 days. Okay. If you're not sure where to begin, I would start with the resonance breathing practice of 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, and just notice how you feel by day 3. Notice how you show up. This is really, really great. And I really want to make sure that you remember this important rule. You don't need a perfect routine. In fact, there isn't a single perfect routine. What you need is a consistent routine. Even if you're doing 5 minutes of intentional breathing per day, you're going to be able to move the needle on your vagal tone. 5 minutes will make a huge difference for those who do this practice consistently and regularly. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, if you want to go deeper on these topics, on breath, on functionality within the vagus nerve, and getting to know your HRV a lot better, I'm going to recommend that you go and check out my book, Upgrade Your Vagus Nerve. It's available wherever books are sold, and you can dig into the science a little bit more and really gain some more understanding of how this whole system works. And then if this episode felt great for you, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to our wonderful podcast, leave a little review, and share it with someone who could use a little nervous system upgrade today. Share it with one person who you think could really help or it could really benefit to help them calm down and show up at a more regulated nervous system level and improve their HRV. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you've appreciated this episode. I want to provide more of these practical episodes as we go. Thank you so much for listening again, and we'll catch you all on the next one.